Welcome, and thank you for joining us to discuss the IEA's new report on the State of Energy Policy 2026. My name is Christine Brandstedt, and I am a team lead in the World Energy Outlook team at the IEA, and I'm here today with Laura Cozzi, Director for Sustainability, Technology and Outlooks, Gabriel Seb, our lead analyst for policy tracking, and his fellow energy policy analyst, Lelu Doni. And for this webinar today, I will first give the floor to Laura to give opening remarks and to highlight her key takeaways. Then next, Gabrielle will walk us through some selected insights from the many interesting findings of this very rich report. And after that, we will have time for a couple of questions on the report and on the insights presented. And I invite you to submit those questions already via Zoom throughout the webinar, ideally making sure that you state your name and affiliation along with them. And now, without further ado, Laura, we look forward to your opening remarks and to your comments.
Thank you very much, Christine. Good afternoon, everyone, and greetings from the International Energy Agency here in Paris. What we are very, very happy to present to you today is, I would say, quite an extraordinary report that we are doing here at the IEA. What is this report? It's, I believe, the most comprehensive, the most factual, and the most transparent repository of what's happening in energy policy making around the world. What you will find on our website and you will hear today from us is what we have learned looking around the world, over 100 countries, 6,000 policies around the world. What is the direction of travel that energy policy making is taking. And what we do, we collect all these policies, we analyze them, and we try to understand and create a very factual map of where we are. So what did we find this year? Before Gabriel will go into much more detail. So first of all, I think what we found this year can be summarized in the following way. Energy security has cemented itself once again as being a center stage of energy policy making. And we're seeing this in different ways. First of all, with traditional energy security concerns that are in the news every day. What we've actually seen, if you look around the world, compared to when the IEA was founded to today, the number of countries that are putting in place oil stockpiling is growing by the day. Even if the duration and the volumes may vary, we now have over 60 countries around the world that are taking those measures. And this is for oil, but very similarly for natural gas, the number of countries that are mandating natural gas stockpiling has doubled since Russia's invasion of Ukraine 2022 to today. So we are seeing very clearly traditional energy security concerns being front and center in the mind of policymakers around the world, using quite traditional methods to cope with shocks that are very real and potential ones. What we are also seeing that there is an increasing and fast-growing recognition that energy security is evolving, and there are new energy security concerns, and countries are taking those very seriously. So we are seeing the same type of stockpiling measures being applied to other parts of policy making that are emerging in terms of very high level of concentration. This may apply, for example, to critical minerals, but also for clean energy technology supply chains. And finally, another emergence, new area of energy security policy making has very much to do with resilience, ranging from adaptation to malicious acts. So this, I would say, is the first finding of the report. The second is very much to do with our tracking of government spending. You will have seen us now, we are doing this for many, many years, and the numbers for 2025 are very clear. We are seeing a record number of government spending towards energy. We are recording around 400 billion, and the vast majority of those money is actually going towards long-term investment. So it's a way for government to give a very clear direction of travel towards where they want their domestic energy sector to go towards. And when you look at where this money is going, is also very clear which is the direction, is again diversification towards renewables, towards electrification, is infrastructure spending. And they are very much concentrated, and the focus is in importing countries. Again, a link towards these measures being also, in many cases, becoming energy security measures. Another point is actually what's happening in terms of energy efficiency and fuel switching. And here we have a bit of a more diverse picture where we are recording a number of countries that have improved and strengthened their efficiency standards. Is around 15 countries in the world that have done so in 2025, but there are also a number of rollbacks and some delays, so that all in all we are actually recording a drop in terms of global energy efficiency stringency and coverage in 2025. Another incredibly important point for us is energy access. You know that we've been working on this topic for decades, and we are very happy to report that actually when we look at access measures, those are on the rise. They are on the rise in particular for what concerns clean cooking, and they are particularly on the rise in sub-Saharan Africa, where the issue of access is most acute. We are, however, observing that with the recent event, with LPG being in shortage, with prices increasing, that those policies are quite fragile. And that's also one of the key reasons why our upcoming summit that President Ruto of Kenya will host in Nairobi, co-hosted with our executive director, the Secretary of Energy of the United States and Norway, is becoming ever more important to address the first and foremost energy security concern, which is really access to everyone. I will conclude with one final point. Of course, last year, for those countries that are signatories to the Paris Agreement, it was a moment to put forward the new NDCs. And what we have found is actually, again, a bit of a diverse geography of what countries are doing. A certain number have actually put forward NDCs that are more ambitious than the previous one, more stringent and going faster and further. There is a large number, especially of emerging economies, that have yet to put forward their NDC, but 80% of the countries that have submitted the NDC have actually put forward either a similar or a slower decline in terms of ambition in energy-related emissions compared to the previous pledges. So all in all, our assessment is that currently, if we were to look at where emissions would be going with the policies that are being put forward through the NDC and what it means for energy-related emissions, it will be very similar to what we have been projecting last year in the stated policy scenario of the World Energy Outlook. With this, I would like to say just two things. A huge thanks to Dan Wetzel, who's leading this team that is doing this work, to Christine, that has been very dedicated and overseeing, and look forward to hearing from Gabriel and Leilu the key findings. Thank you very much.
And many thanks, Laura, for these insightful remarks. Much appreciated. And welcome also from my side. It's a real pleasure to see that many of you connected to follow the key finding of this report. As Laura rightfully pointed out, direct financial support from government is a fundamental lever in energy policy, and 2025 makes no exception. Down from a peak in 2023, in the middle of the energy crisis, government energy spending reached $405 billion in 2025, a significantly elevated level compared to just 5 years ago. And short-term energy affordability measures played a significant role in this increase, with $220 billion directed towards households between 2022 and 2023. But even without these temporary measures, the trend shows a structural energy spending growth. Provision post-COVID-19 pandemic played a fundamental role in this growth, with varying allocation and pace across sector. in the past 10 years. This growth, this increase in spending was mostly allocated for low-emission passenger cars, building retrofits, but also domestic manufacturing. Budget revision for these long-term investments enacted in 2025 are expected to reduce initial budgets on energy by a quarter compared to earlier expectations. Key driver for this includes the revision of energy-related tax credits in the US, but also some expiring programs under the European Recovery and Resilience Facility Fund, and the reduction of government-based renewable subsidies in China. Despite this, total allocation are foreseen to remain elevated towards current levels, with most countries maintaining high energy spending and some actually increasing it. Since the beginning of this year, many governments have launched new affordability measures to manage the impact on energy markets, likely pushing in 2026 spending above budget expectations. These affordability measures really need to learn from the lessons drawn in 2022, where only a quarter of the spending was directed to households most in need, adding a necessary fiscal strain and diverting attention away from further long-term diversification and efficiency efforts. The next State of Energy Policy will discuss and spotlight the disbursement made throughout the year. These temporary affordability measures are a new component of a broader set of government action to respond to unexpected shocks. Since the first oil crisis in 1973 until the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, emergency stockpile and measures to buffer oil and natural gas shocks have been put in place in a growing number of importing countries. More than 60 countries, representing 95% of global oil imports, now have oil stockholding requirements in place. And I really want to emphasize that this roots mainly in international collaboration. The International Energy Programme, which founded the IEA more than 50 years ago, grew to 32 members in 2025 and has proven to be crucial, with 6 oil stock released since its creation, half of which in the past 5 years. Similar emergency measures have been adopted beyond the program in emerging markets and developing economies. The policy trend for natural gas is more recent, but as important as it is for oil, with stockholding requirement in place in countries representing 40% of global gas imports. The Russia-Ukraine gas crisis in 2009 triggered the first legislation in Europe mandating new gas emergency plans, followed by gas storage obligation after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, along with strategic buffers like in Japan. Despite this momentum, it's important to note that not all countries are fully shielded against fuel supply shocks. The lack of natural gas emergency stocks, likely in emerging markets, low required oil stock volume, and partial implementation can hinder how new shocks can be buffered. The current disruption triggered already new announcements for reinforced storage capacities, notably in Indonesia and Vietnam. And of course, the IEA is closely tracking these policies and this policy evolution, and has already made available on its IEA website a 2026 energy crisis policy response tracker, and that is regularly updated with new announcements. Governments are also increasingly focused on addressing new forms of risk, like Laura flagged, particularly in the consolidation of critical minerals and clean energy technology supply chains. As of 2025, only 4 countries currently maintain formal stockpiling requirements when it comes to critical minerals, with most policies in 2025 focusing rather on financial support for production, refining, or recycling. Another momentum stands with energy access. Policy attention for electricity and clean cooking access for all has increased since 2024, notably through initiatives such as the IEA-led Clean Cooking Declaration and efforts on electricity access under Mission 300 energy compacts. Since 2024, 56 new electricity access-related policies have been announced or implemented. measures including national electrification strategies, rural and last mile connection programs, tax exemptions, and consumer affordability support. For clean cooking, the momentum is similar. Since 2024, 64 new initiatives have been introduced, including national strategies, targets, government incentives, and delivery plans. And like Laura also mentioned, most of it is actually happening in sub-Saharan Africa. 70% of the population living in the country with policy progress were located in sub-Saharan Africa, and up to 90% when it comes to electricity access. This momentum can be fragile, and energy access was strongly slowed down by previous crises. The 2026 Summit on Clean Cooking in Africa on the 9th and 10th of July will aim to mobilize additional international support to ensure a secure and affordable access to clean cooking solutions. Last year, revision to energy efficiency and fuel switching regulation marked a clear change in the policy momentum. In aggregate, about half of the global energy demand covered by such standard have been subject to a shift in their implementation. Withdrawn, relaxed, or postponed legislation impacted 60% of this shift, and with a particular focus on road transport, with, for example, a reset of fuel economy standards in the US, along with relaxed requirements for compliance, like in the European Union. These changes outweighed the new and more stringent standards that were implemented in 15 other countries during the same time period, implying a first drop in global energy efficiency stringency ever recorded. Our brand new indicator, which tries to normalize and benchmark current regulation with the most stringent standard globally enforced, demonstrate a continuous growth in global energy efficiency coverage and stringency, but at a slower pace than anticipated in 2024. The global signal provided are now, for comparison, equivalent to the one seen in 2019.
Sure.
Finally, on climate, 2025 marked a key milestone for parties under the Paris Agreement to submit their new nationally determined contributions, the NDCs, and to put forward a new emission mitigation ambition for the next 10 years. And in aggregate, this new round of pledges do not imply an acceleration in energy sector mitigation. Emission would slowly decline by 0.3% annually by 2035, misaligned with the ambition of the Paris Agreement to maintain well below 2 degrees Celsius the global temperature rise by the end of the century. This widely differ country by country, of course, but again, in aggregate, more than 80% of the new submission imply a similar or slower mitigation rate than the previous NDCs. This picture is still subject to change. About 65 parties to the Paris Agreement, most of them developing economies, have still to submit new, possibly more ambitious NDCs as of April 2026. I want to maybe mention that the Climate Pledge Explorer, which gather all the data, the country level data that is embedded in this, and that tracks NDCs from the first NDCs since the ratification of the Paris Agreement until the new NDCs from last week, have been updated with the publication of this report, and will be continuously updated to assess the impact of these new NDCs. So I would really incentivize you to dive into this Explorer for granular information. And finally, before ending this presentation, I'd like to point out that the State of Energy Policy report builds on a wide, comprehensive, and regular exercise maintained in the agency to monitor as close to real time as feasible the policy evolution of energy and climate policies to best inform our models and reports. All the inputs in this report are made publicly available on our brand new Global Energy Policy Hub that you can see on the screen. The hub compiles more than 6,500 entries over government incentives, regulation, and trade policies for all energy sectors and 84 countries. It's a dynamic platform, regularly updated, and every single policy can be checked and reviewed with official links to government websites. on that, I'll probably hand that over to Christine, and thank you all again for being here today.
Yes, thank you, Gabriel, for this interesting overview. We will now take 2 minutes to allow for more questions to come in, and then we'll be back for what promises to be a very interesting and lively discussion. Please continue to submit your questions via Zoom, and ideally, please provide your name and affiliation along with that. See you in 2 minutes. Okay, welcome back. And with us, I welcome a new person at the table. We have Daniel Wetzel here joining us, the head of Tracking and Sustainable Transitions unit. And with the assembly complete again, let's start with the first question from the audience. And I will direct this one to Gabrielle. People want to know that spending on affordability measures looks smaller than I would expect. Germany alone made 200 billion available in 2023. Why do your numbers seem so low?
That's a very interesting question, and I welcome all the German fellows in the chat, and I understand why Christine is picking this one first. On the 2022 packages, I think it's important to keep in mind that those were quite complex and with a wide diversity of measures. Maybe the first primary points that I want to have here is on the methodology that we actually have in the report. We are moving away from taking stock of government announcements to actual final outcome, and in this case, this is disbursements. We used to see, and the 200 billion is actually an announcement of what Germany could disburse through this energy shield. But when you have a look to the details and the budget laws and what's been actually the final accounts for these budget lines, there's a clear change in the narrative. Since we were talking about Germany, I have a list of the few schemes that could work. But for Germany, there was this gas scheme, for example, that was initially marked to be $40 billion for 2023. By the end of the year, only 15 billions were disbursed during that year, which is still significant, but this is a 60% reduction of the initial budget. So I think that's one of the key points and key elements that is around the government spending of this report, moving away from announcements to the actual disbursement. The second point, still related to these European packages, is actually just that these measures do not always target households, or are simply not short-term. On the first place, some were just targeting industry as well because of the high electricity prices or gas prices. This is something that in a broader time frame we now include this as a competitiveness input, or rather than affordability. And the second one is more on some other key measures that we see rather as long-term investment. I'll just take another example than Germany, and if I can be a little bit biased, I'll take France for that one. For last week, for example, when the Prime Minister is announcing in its new plan that he will double budgets for heat pumps by the end of the decade, this is surely having an impact on affordability and electrification and so on. But this is considered in our tracking as as an incentive for long-term investment. So maybe to summarize things, the 200 billion that we see for Germany is somehow still embedded in in our analysis. Some are for households, some are rather in the long-term investment. And the shorter version is just to have that we're tracking that disbursement and not the actual budget.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have a bit of a different question. People are interested: do the developments for NDCs that are displayed also take into account India and the developments for the near future? Maybe you can.
Sure. Yeah, we do include the last all the indices that have been published until last week. So India has been taken into account in this analysis. You can already actually find it in the on the Climate Policy Explorer if you'd like to compare it with the first indices and the revised first NDC. And this is embedded also in the report. The report is not outdated already. The analysis on India is already included in the climate section, so more than welcome to have a look to it.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, for a bit of a change of directions, people want to know how do the developments for government spending compare across sectors, and which sector has seen the biggest change over the past 10 years? And maybe you can have enlighten us on that one.
Yeah, sure. So the graph in government energy spending has affected some sectors more than others. So on one hand, on the past decade, government support has increased the most sharply for low-emission passenger cars, increasing 14-fold, for the building sector, increasing 6-fold, and for the industry sector, increasing 4-fold. The support for power generation or mass and alternative transit continue in aggregate to receive the biggest share of energy spending over the years. And however, what we can see for power generation is that the spending starts to stabilize with some variation depending of the context, of course. But the stabilization is linked somehow to the shift to more market-based instruments that are, for instance, auctions or contracts for differences in view of declining cost of wind and solar technologies, for instance, and this can partly explain why private investments have seen an increase of 20% annually since 2021, compared with government spending that has seen an increase of 4% annually over the same time period for low emission power generation. Conversely, on the private investments in energy efficiency, on building, on industry, or on transport, we see that it is closely tied to the government support.
Okay, thank you very much for this. Another question that we have received is, how does the change in energy efficiency regulations compare to the last State of Energy Policy?
Happy to take this one. The State of Energy Policy 2024 already had this assessment on energy efficiency and broader set of regulation. And what we signal back then is that already a share of the energy demand was subject to withdrawn or relaxed or again postponed regulation in that field. Just to have the number here, it's just the State of Energy Policy assessed 5%, that 5% of the global energy demand were impacted by delays in the regulatory framework. So this is need to be in comparison with the last one that we have from the State of Energy Policy 2026, where we have around 15%. In that 30%, sorry, in that regard. So there is a clearer difference in those estimates. In the State of Energy Policy 2024, we still had a more energy demand covered by an increase in stringency for energy efficiency standards, 15%, which eventually imply a continued growth in coverage in stringency. For 2024. That's roughly the difference between those two reports.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, one very timely question that comes in is the IEA monitoring new policies that are being implemented in response to the current situation? Dan, maybe you want to take this one.
I'm very happily taking that one. So short answer, yes. The IEA is continuing to monitor the situation more broadly, but also the great policy team here has been doing excellent work to keep tabs on the latest developments here, both in terms of immediate responses to the crisis, but also some of the longer-term measures that we're seeing in place. So I think past crises have shown that when global energy markets are roiled like they are right now, that we see a very active period of policy responses. And this is something that can really shape and redirect the direction of travel of global energy. So this is something we are monitoring quite closely, both the short-term and the longer-term measures, and really also trying to expand the scope of measures that we're seeing. We also see that in these exceptional circumstances, new types of policy instruments are often introduced, and these are ones that are going to continue to evolve and tweak as people are trying to find the most secure energy policies that can help make sure that prices are affordable and manageable for the consumers. So we'll keep our policy tracking up to date. As Gabrielle mentioned, there's a great portal already on the IEA website to track the IEA's monitoring of the situation, and also the Global Energy Policy Hub continues to be the go-to place to be able to find those policies in a very structured way and be able to find the original policy documents that we hope can be a great resource to many of those people who are working in the space. And thanks to many of those people who also reviewed this report, both our member countries and many other people operating in the space, academics, international organizations, companies. So thanks for joining us today.
Yes, and with this, we unfortunately come to the end of this webinar. I can thank you all again for joining us online and here in the studio. Thank you for your engaging questions and for the detailed discussions by my colleagues here. If your particular question did not get answered, feel free to get in touch via policies@iea.org. And other than that, on the IEA website, you can find the report in all its detail, and also you can explore some of the underlying data. As has been mentioned, there's the Energy Policies Hub with over 6,000 policy measures across more than 80 countries to dive into. And there's also the Climate Pledges Explorer, where the colleagues continue to update all new NDC submissions that come in. And with this, have a good afternoon, everyone.